If you watch the evening news, the story of Iran seems strictly contemporary, a continuous cycle of protests, proxy conflicts, and nuclear negotiations. This region was the seat of the Achaemenid Empire. By 550 BC, it stretched from the Indus Valley to North Africa, governing an estimated 44% of the world's population. It was the first true global superpower. This map of the Eastern Hemisphere shows exactly why that empire had a target on its back. The Iranian Plateau functions as a mandatory geographic land bridge connecting Europe, Asia, and Africa. Any power looking to expand across the ancient world had to march directly through it, and they did. For millennia, the plateau faced a relentless wave of foreign conquerors. Alexander the Great overthrew the Achaemenids. Arab armies swept through in the 7th century. Genghis Khan and the Mongols leveled entire cities in the 13th century, followed closely by waves of Turkic nomads. Under standard historical models, a civilization subjected to that much sequential conquest and systemic destruction is entirely erased. The local language disappears, the religion is overwritten, and the population is assimilated into the invading empire. Yet, the Persian identity survived. The first major test of that survival happened in 651 AD. Following a brutal civil war, the native Sasanian Empire collapsed under the weight of the expanding Arab armies, integrating the Iranian plateau into the new Islamic Caliphate. Usually, this means the conquered people adopt the culture of the victor, but the local bureaucrats executed a highly effective defensive strategy. Because the vast new caliphate needed a complex administration to function, Iranian scholars volunteered to run it, and they used existing Persian administrative frameworks to do so. They retained their language and their aesthetic traditions. In the 10th century, the poet Ferdowsi wrote the Shahnameh, a massive national epic composed almost entirely in Persian. It bypassed Arabic entirely, ensuring the region's pre-Islamic history and cultural values remained distinctly Persian. Over the following centuries, Iranian philosophers, mathematicians, and physicians, like Avicenna, became the intellectual engine driving the Islamic Golden Age. They dominated the highest levels of science and government. Instead of fighting a doomed military campaign, they used cultural assimilation as a defense mechanism. They ensured their survival by quietly teaching their conquerors how to be Persian. That cultural resilience carried them through to the year 1501, when the Safavid dynasty rose to power. For the first time in over 8 centuries, native rulers controlled the entirety of Iran. This regional map shows the Safavids executing a massive geopolitical maneuver. To build a wall against the expanding, Sunni-dominated Ottoman Empire next door, the Safavids established Shia Islam as the official, mandatory state religion. As the historical borders transition to the modern day, you can see the result of that decision. By creating a distinct religious identity, the Safavids carved out a geographic footprint that successfully insulated them from their neighbors, locking in boundary lines that largely define the modern Iranian state. Behind those secured borders, the country experienced a massive architectural and economic boom. Cities like Isfahan were filled with highly complex, colorful tilework and public squares, reflecting a newly centralized wealth. Shia Islam had effectively been weaponized. It operated as a hardened political boundary, isolating and protecting the Iranian national identity from the empires surrounding it. But in the 20th century, the nature of the threat shifted. Foreign powers were no longer interested in conquering the land bridge. Instead, they were interested in the massive petroleum reserves discovered in Khuzestan. The British Empire established deep roots in the extraction industry, while Russia pressured the northern borders. The Iranian central government found itself repeatedly compromising its own sovereignty to appease these external economic interests. In 1951, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh attempted to break this cycle by fully nationalizing the British-owned oil industry. 2 years later, the CIA and MI6 organized a coup, removed Mossadegh from power, and placed him under house arrest. In his place, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi consolidated power with direct Western backing. He built a highly militarized autocracy, heavily protected by an internal security service that actively suppressed political opposition. The Shah pushed for rapid, mandated Westernization, including land reforms and the banning of traditional clothing, which alienated the working class and deeply offended the religious clergy. Decades of political suppression, combined with visible foreign influence over the nation's wealth, created an unsustainable domestic environment. The 1979 Islamic Revolution was a violent, systemic rejection of puppet governments and foreign extraction. The monarchy was immediately replaced by the Islamic Republic. Under Ayatollah Khomeini, the new theocratic constitution locked in a populous, heavily Shia, and explicitly anti-Western foreign policy. This new posture was tested almost immediately. In 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded, triggering an 8-year war that resulted in hundreds of thousands of casualties. It forced the new republic into a grueling defensive reality to maintain its borders. In the decades since, severe international sanctions and geopolitical isolation have battered the domestic economy. Cut off from much of the global market, the state has relied entirely on its historical reflex of self-preservation. But that reflex is now causing intense internal friction. Today, a highly educated, deeply connected young populace is openly challenging the constraints and economic failures of the modern theocratic state. Iran's modern posture, its nuclear ambitions, its proxy networks, its strict internal control, is the product of a 5,000-year mandate. It is a nation that has learned to absorb its invaders, weaponize its religion, and protect its specific identity at any cost.